Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to Brother Sanchez TV. Thank everybody for joining in for part 2 of this lecture. I know the first one was a bit lengthy, but thank everybody who watched it from the beginning to the end because it was packed with crucial information that we just can't do without, people. Why do I do what I do? Because knowledge is power and the truth is the only thing that can set us free. Simple. I do it because I love you. Because the truth ain't popular, people. This truth is not going to get me where Creflo Dollar at. This truth is not going to get me where Minister Farrakhan at. This truth is not going to get me where T.D. Jakes and the rest of them at. This truth is not going to get me popular. If anything, this truth is going to get me popped. Okay? So people, I don't do this for no other reason other than somebody got to do it, y'all. And I truly love y'all. I love you, each and every last one of you looking at this video. Now, I'm not going to talk your ear off too long. I want to wrap this series up, and there's a few things we need to go over before I can do that. So this video right here is going to briefly recap the last video and also conclude the series. So with that being said, let's hop right on into it. People, when you learn who you are, you will no longer be who you ain't. And when that transition takes place in your life, the greatness of Africa will spark the greatness in you. Okay? So think about what I just told you. When you learn who you are, you will stop being who you ain't. And when that transition takes place in your life, the greatness of Africa will spark the greatness in you. Okay? So with that being said, that's just going to give you something to think about. We're going to move on and wrap this series up. Thank y'all for joining in to part 2. There's been a lot of propaganda over the years to make us African people accept the term black. And in doing so, we lost our inheritance, people. We came over here as Africans, then we became Afro-Americans. That turned into African Americans, which also coincided during the time we was calling ourselves colored people. And then finally we went to the lowest of low, which is what we call black people. And what we've called ourselves throughout the history, people, has been a reality in our lives, in our culture. At each point in history, what we identify ourselves as manifested itself into a different type of culture. For example, when we came over here after slavery, we was more revolutionary than we ever was. The more our titles and identity deteriorated, the more our realities and our culture deteriorated, until here we are today with what's called black culture, which is the totally opposite of African culture, people. That's why it's so important for Brother Sanchez to get his people to find a greatness in themselves with the motherland, okay? Not just our people, but everybody in the world should do this. I don't care what your culture is. Everybody originated from the motherland. I don't care what your culture is. If everybody embraced the greatness of Africa, that will bring about unity on this planet. Now, with that being said, let's move on, people. Like I said, there's been a lot of propaganda throughout the years to get African people to be ashamed of being called African people. For example, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest things that did it for me coming up. When I was coming up, I used to preach African rhetoric. I would go to my brothers and say stuff that was, pro-African. And they would say, "Get on, miss me with that crap, Sharif." They would call me by the name of Sharif. Now, who is Sharif? Everybody that's listening to this, if you ever saw a movie called Menace to Society, you had O-Dog, you had, I don't remember all the characters, but O-Dog and Kane were the main two. There was another character in the movie by the name of Sharif.
Oh, you got the goddamn hood on here look like the Green Reaper. It's cold out here, my brother. You know, once black folks not used to this cold there, we're the tropical people, you understand? Let the Europeans deal with this, man. Then why your tropical ass sit on the goddamn crew? Food some drinking this for us. That's why. Man, you better get your Alaikum Salam ass up off this box and pass me up for that book.
Okay, why did I show you this clip? Because that movie was another scheme right there. That was another propaganda scheme to get you further away from Africa and for having respect for your motherland. The people who made Menace to Society knew that it would be a big hit in the African community. So they had to have this character by the name of Sharif to make a point in the movie. What was that point? That it's not cool to be African-minded. See, that brother in the movie named Sharif, he was African-minded. And all throughout the movie, he was joked on because of that. And as a result of the movie, you had a lot of young African men who wanted to be more like O-Dog as opposed to Sharif. So they turned the true image of so-called black man into O-Dog. They made it cool for you to be like O-Dog and made it not cool for you to be like Sharif. That's a propaganda scheme to take the pride out of you, of your African motherland. Now, there's plenty examples and plenty movies we can refer to that does this type of rhetoric and this type of propaganda. But that's just one big one that we all remember that I can point out and that we can relate to. So people, we stop finding the greatness of Africa in ourselves. And the reason I did this series is to help regain the greatness of Africa within us, people. All right? We cannot win against white supremacy without promoting global Africanism. All right? Me, myself, personally, I'm a Pan-African. And to tell you the truth, people, we can't do it alone. White supremacy did not start by just a couple white people in America. The only way white supremacy could be successful, it was through the global effort of all white supremacists. Okay? That's the only way white supremacy could be successful, through the global effort of all white supremacists. So the only way African liberation is going to be successful, people, is through the global effort of all Africans around the globe. You will be surprised how many cultures can trace their DNA back to Africa, people. We're talking about Middle Easterners, Indonesians, Australians, even we got brothers and sisters up there in Canada. And in case y'all didn't know, Mexicans and Hispanics are African people, okay? Now, I don't know the exact year it was. I'm going to do another lecture on this. But there was a time where there wasn't even a word called Hispanic. Okay? Mexicans didn't become Hispanics until somewhere around the mid-1900s, late 1900s. Okay? That was a couple of years ago. Our Spanish brothers and sisters had the term African in their name at one point. But for the powers that be to divide and conquer, they had to take the African term off of all of our melanated people's names. They had to remove that African term. Basically, to make a long story short, we all ended up with names that didn't link us to one another. But Brother Sanchez come here today to give us back our true identity, that we can get back our global heritage, people. And the only way we're going to get that back is to all melanated people across the globe to identify under this African umbrella that was taken from us, okay? It was taken from us. Our true identity was taken, but more so, instead of saying taken, we basically abandoned it because we became ashamed of it through the propaganda that was fed to us over the years. And it wasn't just fed to us, people. It was fed to all of our brothers and sisters across the globe to get them to ditch the African part of their titles, okay? So that separated us. And when we became separated, the powers that be became united. And the people remained divided and conquered. That's why you got a lot of African people that say, well, the Middle Easterners they're not the same people we are. And the Africans over there in Africa, they're not the same Africans who we are, so forget about them. They got their own struggle, and we got our own struggle. People, that's such a big lie. All of us share the same struggle, but we can't see it, y'all. For example, a crackhead living in this country, a heroin addict living in this country, and a meth addict living in this country all have the same struggle, people. But if you ask each one of them, do they have the same struggle, they will say no. The crackhead will say, hey man, he don't know nothing about crack, and I don't know nothing about heroin. And the meth addict will say, well, I can't relate to their struggle because I do meth and they do crack, you know. However, all of these people are addicted to drugs that was brought over here by the same entity, white supremacy. Okay? So whether they gave him crack and gave you meth and gave him heroin, it was all given to you by the same devil. And that devil is white supremacy. See, the devil is not one person or one group of people. The devil is a program. Okay? The devil is a global program called white supremacy. And the only way the people on this planet can be free, y'all, is until we win against white supremacy. And the only way we gonna do that is to unite with our African heritage, people. That's the only way we're gonna win against it. Stay with me, people. Another thing I want you guys to do is to begin to research what Malcolm's message was when he came back from the Middle East. Then that will help you understand further why he died, people, and who killed him, and who had a role in killing him. A lot of Farrakhan lovers come at me real negative, y'all. I get messages, I get comments every day from people saying, you know, screw you, you stupid, because you going against the minister and you don't know what the minister trying to do. People, it's not hard to see why I go against Farrakhan. I respect him as my senior and as my elder, but I wish Malcolm was still living. I bet Malcolm would have a lot of message for us today. There was one great leader who we was robbed from, y'all. He was taken away from us due to greed, due to negativity, due to envy, all right? And Farrakhan had a role in his death, and Farrakhan admitted to that. I already showed y'all the videos about that. We ain't going to go into that too deeply. We was robbed, y'all, of a great leader was taken from us by a man who a lot of people ain't going to like what I'm going to say right now, but a man who is a real snake, if you ask me. And actually, I'm going to go so far as to say he's irrelevant at this point. All of those million-man marches ain't going to help us out this situation. A million black men getting together to march ain't going to end white supremacy. But a million black men getting together, putting $1 in a jar, or create $1 million to clean some of these ghettos up. That'll help us more than them marching, getting corns on their feet, going up there to the Capitol begging. If you take them million men and have all of them put $1 in a pot, that's $1 million right there. And we won't have to march nowhere begging the white man for nothing. So it's a waste of time if you ask me. And anybody that can't see that, I'm sorry for you. Okay? Listen, people. We got to have love for our leaders, but not so much love where we let them mislead us. Okay? We got to know when we're being misled, people. Just because somebody sound good don't mean they're for the good of the people. You got to learn who for the people and who for their pockets. All right? And on top of all of that, for all of you people who in love with the Nation of Islam, I got some news for you. Did you know that the Nation of Islam merged with Scientology? Yes, people. The Nation of Islam has officially incorporated Scientology into their doctrine. So listen, y'all, the Nation of Islam you see today ain't the same Nation of Islam it was when Malcolm X was a member of it. Okay? It ain't the same nation. Don't get me wrong. The Nation of Islam had its time in history. It had its place in history where it was a powerful organization for African men and women. But those days are gone, people. The new revolution has to come from the people now. A lot of those organizations and a lot of those leaders are irrelevant today. And I don't care how you feel about what I'm saying. But this is not making us any progress, having a million man march up to the Capitol begging when he got millions of dollars that can help us out.
Malcolm didn't know what he was playing with. No, he didn't.
Okay? People, all I'm doing is telling you the truth. That's all I'm doing, telling the truth. Tell me one time yet where I've lied to you people. I'm not lying. And guess what I keep telling you about this truth that I'm telling you? It's the only thing that's going to set us free. Not the lies all of these hypocrites telling you. Now let's move on. I was doing some research on Google and I ended up in a blog. I ended up in some type forum where they was debating and discussing about pro-black and pan-Africanism. And I spent a couple of hours in this forum because some of the stuff that was going on in this blog was some of the same stuff that I see in my social media feed and some of the same questions that a lot of people I'm associated with have. So some of the stuff I saw in this blog was very profound. There's a lot of people that feel the way I feel. There's a lot of African people that's waking up and they're asking the question, hey, what is the pro-black movement really? Is it really a movement? No, it's not, people. And I'll give you a challenge. Put pro-black in your Google search and see if you can find a definition for it. If you can find a definition for pro-black and you can come back and show me that definition, I'll take all of my videos off of YouTube and I won't make another video again. On the other hand, go on Google and put in Pan-African and watch how many definitions come up. It's a legit movement, people. The pro-black movement was something that they gave us to throw us off, y'all. To occupy us with something that was not going to bring progress. And that pro-black movement has occupied us for too long now. And now Brother Sanchez is standing up saying we got to get back to our Pan-African heritage, people. The Pan-African movement is the only thing that's going to set us free. We've been tangled up into this propaganda with this pro-black movement for so long, and we have not made any progress. The only way we can make progress is what Brother Marcus Garvey was trying to tell us, people. Africa is the land that we must identify with. For people that don't agree with what I'm saying, just remember, what I'm saying is what a lot of many of our great leaders were saying. Okay? So when you disagree with me, you disagree with a long heritage of Pan-Africanism. Alright? It's not nothing Brother Sanchez just decided to make up. This is a long heritage, people, that I'm promoting, that I'm standing behind. Because I see that it's our only solution. Now, I kind of got off subject there. I was talking about this blog that I was in. Let me get back to this blog because there's some things I want to share with y'all. And one of those things that I found in the blog was this post that was posted by a female. And I don't know her name, but I'm going to read this post to you. The sister said in the blog, y'all, what's wrong with being pro-black? You are black. It should be assumed that you are pro-black. You won't catch a Chinese person tell you they're pro-China, you know, or you won't catch a Jewish person tell you that they're pro-Jew. We're the only people feel the need to put that word pro in front of our attribute. If you're going to put pro in front of something, put it in front of the word Africa. Now let me break down to you why I brought this post up and why I read this for you. If you say you're pro-black, you're saying that you're pro your attribute or the adjective what you are. Now don't let me lose you. Stay with me. You got Jewish people saying that, listen, we're Jewish. They don't say we're pro-Jewish. Because when they say they're Jewish, I mean, it's a duh type thing that they're pros at being Jews. Listen, man, if you're a homeless man, you don't have to say I'm pro-homeless. You just homeless. And I can assume that you're a pro at it, especially if you've been homeless for 10 plus years. So I'm just using that as an example, y'all. People that's pro anything, it's because there are levels to reaching that professionalism aspect of that field. For example, if you're pro football, that means you've been through Little League, you've been through high school, you've been through college, and now you're in the pros. But when you talk about black people, when you say the term black people, people is a noun. That take the place of the person, the place, or the thing. We all know black is the adjective. So you wouldn't say I'm pro person because you are a person. And you can't be a professional at being a person. Either you're a person or you're an animal. Okay? So that's kind of opening your mind up with me saying all that as the issue that we face when we say we're pro-black. First of all, we're Africans. And there's no need to say that you're pro-African because simply by being an African, you're an African. There's no such thing as a junior African or sophomore African. You can only be African or anything else. So to say pro-African is kind of redundant. I think that's the right word I want to use, is redundant. That's kind of a redundant statement, okay? You don't have to be pro-African. You simply have to be African. Because if you say you're pro-African, then that means there must be some other Africans that hasn't made it to the pros yet. They're not professionals yet. But you're pro-African, okay? So we don't say pro-African, we say pan-African. And when you go and research what that means, which I encourage you to do, you can find out why we say that on your own, okay? I'm going to move on with this lecture. Basically, y'all, to say pro-black is an ignorant statement, and it makes us look foolish across the globe to all of our other melanated brothers and sisters. Something else I want to touch on is the fact that we don't know all of our history. Let me share some with y'all with that being said before I get into that. This, what I'm about to say to you, is very profound, it's very deep, so listen up. We are a very oppressed people as Africans. We are very oppressed in this world, y'all. Our oppression makes no sense to us. So because of that, a lot of people say we're the chosen people. Listen, the reason I say that is because we say we was perfect at one point. We were building pyramids and we was a perfect God-chosen group of people. So how did this perfect group of people end up as oppressed as we are today? When we ask this question, we end up scratching our heads and getting all type of different theories that don't make no sense. And the reason these theories make no sense, and the reason we can't find an answer to the question, how come a perfect people end up being slaves and end up oppressed, is because we're basing the question on a false fact. We're basing this question on false information. What is that false information? The false information is we were not perfect, y'all. Nobody's perfect. Our ancestors wasn't perfect either. They made mistakes, okay? What do I mean by that? Now ask yourself the question, how did a people end up being slaves? Because they made a couple of mistakes over time that eventually led us in this position. Yes, people, we have to accept some of the blame of our slavery and our current state of oppression today. All right? We have to accept some of that blame. When you ask yourself the question, how did a perfect group of people end up slaves, you'll never find the answer because we weren't perfect. When you take the perfect off of it, it's easy to see how we became slaves. Our ancestors weren't perfect. They made mistakes just like we did today. So when you ask yourself, how did a perfect group of people become slaves, you will never find an answer to that, because you basing the question in a lie. We wasn't perfect, all right? People, there were many civil wars in our motherland that a lot of your leaders don't want to talk about. They just want to show you the good part of our history, like Brother Taj Bay told you in the last lecture I did. See, people, in order for us to move forward and fix our future, we have to learn the mistakes we made in our past. All right? That's simple, people. In order for us to fix our future, we can't give ourselves a false sense of pride about our history. Okay? We can't say we was perfect and scotch-free in the past, but somehow we became slaves. You know what? That don't make no sense, y'all. We say we the fathers and mothers of civilization, and that we created everything, including the white man. But our excuse for being perfect and falling from power, one of the main excuses that I hear from a lot of our brothers and sisters is that, listen, y'all, we was perfect, but we created white people because we couldn't do evil, and we wanted to create a race of people that would be the manifestation of our lower self. That's a common theory in the conscious community. A lot of people say we created white people because we wanted to experience evil. They say we was perfect, we couldn't do evil. So we had to create a race of people that could do evil so we can experience what evil would be like. Believe it or not, y'all, that's a common theory in the African community amongst our conscious brothers and sisters. Let me tell you what I have against that theory, y'all. This is what I have against it. When you say we was a perfect people that couldn't do no evil, but we created white people so we can experience evil, don't you know the very act of creating those people was an evil act? The very act of creating white people, so-called an evil race, would have been an evil act on our behalf. So since we created white people and they are evil race that we created to experience evil with, now that we experiencing this evil, shut the fuck up then, because we created them to experience it then. That's my philosophy on it. Y'all see how none of this make no sense? You see how we say things just to stroke our ego? We got to stop stroking our ego and deal with the facts today, people. Now that ought to make a lot of you conscious brothers feel stupid, who say we created white people because we couldn't do evil, but we created white people so we could experience evil. Well, when you created the white race to experience evil, that was evil. So the first evil was done by us then. No matter how you want to put it, if you say we was the first at doing everything, then that would make us the first at creating evil too. That would make us the first at doing evil too, people. We got to accept the good and the bad of our history. And if we don't, we just fooling ourselves and we'll never move on with our future, people. It's very important that we accept the good and the bad. You just can't accept the good, y'all. We got to deal with everything about our history so we can see what really happened, y'all. So we can see what really happened in our past and move on with our future. If you only want to accept the good, you only get half of the story, and you can't do nothing with half of a piece of a picture. You need the whole picture to see what's going on in it. All right? So, y'all, we got to be real with ourselves. We made some mistakes in the past. We did some things we had no business doing as African people. One of the reasons we end up in the position we are today is because we broke our own laws against nature. So to say that our ancestors was perfect leaves a lot of loopholes and questions that we face today. based on that false foundation of perfection. All right? Our ancestors weren't perfect. They was great people. But perfection and greatness is two different things. And when you ask some of these people, how did a perfect people allow themselves to be conquered by a caveman? They start giving you all type of mythological answers. Because when you ask them that question, the facts go out the window. They get up against a wall and backed into a corner, and the only way they can wiggle themselves out is with Superman stories. And that's a bunch of foolishness. We got to deal with the facts sooner or later if we're going to get out of this situation. There's going to always be missing links and loopholes in our history as long as we base it on a false foundation that our ancestors was perfect. They were great, but they weren't perfect. And there's a difference between perfection and greatness. Our ancestors were the greatest people on the planet, but they still made mistakes, y'all. They weren't perfect. They were in tune with their spirituality in a level that the world never seen before. But that doesn't make them perfect, people. You can reach that level of spirituality before you die. All right? So there are going to always be questions about our past that we can't answer as long as we base it in a false history that we was perfect. And when you back these people in the corner because they talking about we was perfect, and you ask them, listen, if we were so perfect, how we allowed ourselves to be conquered by cavemen? Then they lose all the facts. All the facts go out the window and they start telling you Superman stories because you backed them in a corner. You got them up against the wall. They tell you how perfect we was and how great we was. Then you say, well, hold up, brother. If we was perfect, how did we allow our perfect behinds to be taken over by cavemen? Then they start giving you Superman stories and all of this mythological crap because they can't answer that question because they standing on a false foundation of their history. They wanna only accept the good of their history and not the bad. So some of the mythological Superman stories that you get from these people, when you ask them, you know, how did such a perfect people fall from power by a caveman? One of the main Superman stories they gonna give you is this one. We created the caveman so we can experience evil. That's what they gonna tell you. They gonna say we was perfect. We couldn't do no evil. So we created white people so we can experience evil. Well, listen, y'all, that's stupid because the very act of creating evil would be evil. So no matter how these people try to put it, it still trickles right back to us, y'all. We are the problem. It always boils down and it comes right back to us, people. It always boils down and comes right back to us when you look at it. No matter how you want to look at it, people want to get all emotional and say, you sound like the white man. How you going to blame it on us? Everybody know the white man wrong for putting us in slavery. But if you're going to say we created the white man, then we was wrong for creating his ass because we allowed the opportunity for this to happen. So no matter how you put it, people, it always boils down to us. The problem is ours, and we the only ones that can make the solution, not the white man. So blaming the white man ain't going to stop white supremacy. But accepting the responsibility and taking responsibility for the mistakes that we made in the past will turn everything around. Because if you don't know how you made a mistake, then you won't know how you can correct that mistake, people. If people only want to tell you the good about your history, but you still a slave, what good is that going to do besides keep you remembering how great you was and feeling good, but you still going to wake up in the morning a slave? You got to accept the bad about your history right along with the good. You got to accept the yin and the yang, people. You can't look at one side of the story, as you'll never get the full picture, and we'll always keep asking these questions. Well, how did the perfect people fall from power? Because they weren't perfect. They made mistakes too, just like we make today. Ain't nobody perfect but the creator in the universe. And you can take that to the bank. I don't care how many of you so-called gods and goddesses don't want to agree with what I'm saying. You're a god and a goddess, but you don't want to accept the bad about your history. You only want to bring up your behind building some pyramids. Accept the bad about it too. We wasn't just building pyramids. We did some things in the past that is a direct result of how we end up in this situation today. Yeah, the white man had a huge role in it, but y'all, we had a role in it too. And our role is the role that originated the problem. No matter how many Negroes want to get emotional and disagree with it. If you say we created all people and we created everything, that means everything. People say we created white people. Then when you ask them, well then, why did we create white people for them to make us slaves? They say we created white people so we can experience evil. Because we didn't know what evil was. Apparently we knew what evil was in order to create it. How the hell can I create a gun, but I don't know what a gun is? You got to know what evil is in order to create it. So people, we got to stop being hypocrites. We got to put our emotions to the side, accept the good and bad about ourselves, and let's move on and correct our future. But first we got to deal with the fuckery in our past. And that's what Brother Sanchez is making these videos for. To put the mirror in your face and show you that you just ain't no God and no goddess now. You ain't just perfect now. You ain't just no God and no goddess. You're a God, you're a goddess, but you also got a little bit of devilish ways in you too. And for anybody that disagree with that, they're a self-righteous individual who will never accept the truth about themselves. It's good and bad in everybody. So for all of you people who keep on saying, I'm a God, I'm a goddess, why don't you say I'm a devil too? Because to every yin, there's a yang. And to every yang, there's a yin. Even the creator of the universe got a good and bad side. Even the creator of the universe got waterfalls and volcanoes. Even the creator of the universe got sunshine, bright days, and thunderstorms. Even the creator of the universe got beautiful planets like Earth, but hells like the sun and Venus that'll burn you up. Even the creator of the universe deals with construction and destruction, because every time there's a new star system created, is at the expense of a dead star. For you people that don't know astronomy, every star that's born is birthed with the remnants of a dead star. So y'all, what is that telling us? That you gotta accept good and bad. The proper way to greatness is balance. Okay, because you can actually be too good that you just a damn pushover. Or you can begin to see yourself as so good that you don't accept the bad about yourself. Then you become a self-righteous individual that's blinded by their own ego and false sense of pride. Ain't nobody perfect. When you think about perfection and you think about imperfection, they are one and the same. And yes, I'm getting off subject right now because what I'm saying is important for you to understand what's going on with our people. When you think about perfection and imperfection, they're synonymous, people. There are some imperfections in the universe, all right? But what we call imperfections, we call it that for lack of better words. Everything you see is a perfection. Everything you see is perfect. Some people may say a house full of germs is imperfect. So let me clean up all of these germs so it can be perfect. Well, that's not perfect. Everything in nature has a role. Even flies, even maggots. So if you look at a carcass on the ground and say, ugh, them maggots, that's an imperfection. That's not an imperfection. You're just not viewing nature through the right lenses. Okay? Everything has a place. Even evil, people. But if you identify evil as this spooky force that you don't want to be a part of, then you fooling yourself, y'all. What we call evil is simply the destructive force of nature. And it goes right along with the constructive force of nature. Just like the female and the male, the feminine and the masculine. Okay? The good and the evil. Everything in nature has its role for the sake of balance. Balance is harmony. We out of balance today as African people because we only want to accept the good about our history. That's why we out of balance today, people. All right? So now let's move on, people. People say we created all races and that everybody walking comes from Africa and originate from Africa. But when they get into an argument, they start excluding certain races for the benefit of their argument and contradicting themselves. So on one hand, we say all cultures get their culture from Africa and all people originated from Africa. And on the other hand, we say we pro-black and we don't want to associate with nobody else. Which one is it, people? How long can we be hypocrites contradicting ourselves like this? All right? We got to all learn across the globe, no matter what your culture is, that you are an African first before you anything. And when we do that, the unity will come, people. Let's move on. If you ask me, we should get rid of races altogether. If you ask me, there shouldn't even be a such thing called races. That's an illusion, people. Races are an illusion. There are two kinds of people on the planet. Melanated Africans and non-melanated Africans. And that's a quote by our great teacher, Dr. Asa Hillard. So the culture that you're calling a culture today, that's called black culture, isn't truly our culture. What black culture is more of a learned behavior that was taught to us by the media. All right? Black culture, to me, is just a learned behavior. True culture dwells in the spirit. All right? Black culture is a learned behavior when you start breaking it down and learning what it really is, because black culture is a new culture that Africans adopted when they became ashamed of being African. So at first, we had names like Shaka and Abunama and Akunama. We spoke languages like that. And we had music that was boom da ya ya boom blah 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 boom blah blah blah. But we became ashamed of that. People look at that as shameful. They say we don't want to be associated with them Africans doing all of that boom blah 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 boom blah blah. But that's truly who we derive from, people. That was us at one point. But that wasn't good enough. So we became so hip and so cool today that now the white man convinced us that black culture is our culture. And them same drums that we used to beat back in Africa, where we made noises that resonated with the universe and that resonated with nature, now we beating them same drums to make hip-hop music and a destruction music that destroy our race. So now we're using them same drums to make music that corrupt the minds of our children and degrade our women. People, we got to wake up, man. If you can't understand what I'm saying, I feel sorry for you. And you really need to start learning and undoing the white supremacy that's in your mind. All right? True culture dwells within the spirit. True culture isn't nothing that can be learned through the media. All right? For example, it's a white rapper by the name of Riff Rap. He sounds just like a black rapper. He sounds just like Young Thug and the rest of them. See, black culture can be learned. But African culture dwells in the spirit, and it doesn't have to be learned. It flows freely out of you naturally. All right? But there's some African people that's not as hip. There's some African people out there that can't relate to hip-hop culture, that can't relate to black culture. There's some Africans out there that don't know nothing about black culture, and if you try to teach it to them, it just won't come naturally. But by all of us being Africans, one thing that comes natural to all of us is the inner dwelling spirituality, the inner dwelling spirit and culture of the motherland. Okay? That comes naturally. All right? If you want me to get more deep into these concepts, I'm telling you, feel free to ask a question in the comment box. But I'm going to move on here, all right? This is what I want to say. Every culture in the world is African culture. Why do I say that? Because Africans are the originators of all cultures, and you cannot be separated from that which created you. That's simple, y'all. You can't be separate from that which created you. You cannot separate the creator from the creation. All right? So if we are the originators of all these cultures in the world, then all of these cultures in the world are African cultures, people. We have to refine the unity. We have to regain and reclaim the unity on a global scale. Okay? Because we all are Africans, people. We all are Africans. So as I stated, there are only two kind of people walking this earth. Melanated Africans and non-melanated Africans.
Malcolm didn't know what he was playing.
Melanated Africans. White people would be considered non-melanated Africans. But are all white people non-melanated? Nope. There are some white people that have white skin that do have melanin. Alright? And this is called albinism. Alright? There are cases where you can take two jet black African people, a man and a woman, put them together, and they'll have a pale baby whose skin is white. Why do we have to stop being ignorant, people? I know ignorance is bliss, but we got to stop being ignorant because, people, the more we stay ignorant, people, the more white supremacy is going to thrive. White supremacy only thrives because of our ignorance. The moment we start getting knowledge and correcting our wrongs, dealing with the mistakes in our past, we can fix our future. We can unite with our African brothers and sisters across the globe, just like the white man did, and overthrow his ass. People, a lot of our brothers and sisters across the globe working with the white man because they have no choice. All right? The white man got them in an oppressed state, just like he got us. None of us are working together, but all of us working for and with the white man. So the moment all of us Africans come together and work together, the white man and his white supremacy will become obsolete. That's the importance of identifying under the African umbrella and joining together in the Pan-African movement. You can't defeat a global epidemic on a local level. It's impossible, people. Okay? We have to become part of this global Pan-African movement if we're going to be serious about defeating white supremacy. Because white supremacy is global, y'all. And the only way you can defeat it is by becoming global. Now, I hope this part 2 of this lecture wraps this series up. I hope that I touched on everything I needed to touch on. I know there are some things I didn't touch on. Trust me, I'll get back to them in the future. But this particular lecture is going to be wrapped up. This video will conclude this series because I have to move on. There's a lot of more things I need to be talking to y'all about. But identity is so important. That's why I put those things on hold, because who we are, y'all, is so important. All right? Who we are is the main reason why we can't win, y'all, against white supremacy, because we don't know who we are today. So, y'all, we have to start identifying as Africans. Now, I need to move on, and I'm going to wrap this lecture up and conclude it with this video, and I'm going to move on. Some of the things I'm going to move on to is a lot of these police killings that I see. And I'm going to let y'all know what's really going on concerning Sandra Bland, concerning the brother that got shot in the head in Cincinnati. There's a lot of things I need to touch on that's current, that's going on in the world, that we're not understanding what the powers that be are doing today. All right? I'm going to touch on those in the future, so make sure you stay tuned. I will be doing videos on Sandra Bland, but not just Sandra Bland. A lot of our brothers and sisters that fell victim in police custody during these past couple of months. All right? We're going to go into that. And also, more importantly, people, we really got to talk about our health and eating healthy. So look forward to that, y'all, and the dangers of you eating meat, pausing in your melanin. Yes, we melanated people. I see a lot of people saying, I'm a melanated god, but they on their way to KFC. Yeah, you got melanin, but your melanin is useless if you pausing it. That's just like me having a gun, but when I pull the trigger, it don't shoot. The gun don't work, but I'm saying, yeah, baby, I'm strapped. I'm strapped. I got this 9 on my waist, but the damn 9 don't even work. So what's the point of having it? You'll do better balling your fists up because the 9 don't even work. So that's for you people who keep on promoting how proud you are of your melanin. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Let your pride show in your diet. Okay? Protect your melanin and empower your melanin instead of destroy it if you so proud of it. So people, I'm trying to get us to a level where we are actually taking action in our lives and not just talking all the time. Okay? Talking hasn't made us one step in our liberation. Being pro-black and calling yourself black ain't making us one step forward. It's only making us hundreds of steps backwards. Until we identify with the greatness of the motherland, we'll never find the greatness in ourselves. And with that being said, I'm going to end this lecture. I love you, my people. Thank you for joining in. I hope I answered a lot of your questions. I love y'all. Peace and hotel.